All right, guys, cool. Let's play for retake. I've got ult. They're pushing. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Just let them in. I have ult. Let's play for retake. They're pushing!
Last player standing.
All right, cool. Knowing how to retake in Valorant is something that it seems like most players don't understand, but that's why I'm making this video for you to help you bring your game to the next level. Truthfully, I'm making this video because I'm tired of being in a 2v5 every single time I try to rotate to the next site. Commonly, what you'll run into in these situations is your teammates being like, oh, we can't, they're just hard pushing. And from my perspective, it's like, cool, homie, can you not die before I get there then? Well, if that's a hard concept for you, or maybe not even you, maybe your friend struggles with this issue, you can send this video to them and we'll sort it out real fast. Starting out with our first topic, positioning. This is something important, and this is something that you're going to do before the round even starts. Are you the only player on site? Cool. Then don't play on site. Play in a position where you can fall back and be safe if you get pushed by 5 people. Because at most, if you defend that site, you're probably going to come out with a trade. And as we've discussed in a lot of our videos, a trade is normally going to favor the offense. What is your course of action going to be if a breach flashes and a jet dashes on top of you? Oh, you don't have a plan for that? Guess you'll just die. Instead, look at your map and try to assess your teammates' locations to determine where you're going to play. If your Sova is insisting on playing backside, it's probably not a good idea for you to play in hookah. Because I can promise you, Sova is not going to help when you get pushed. Now, of course, you can ask Sova to help you, but if he doesn't show any interest, then it's probably a good idea for you to back up, because you and I both know what's going to happen.
One enemy remaining.
You're either going to do one of two things. You're going to retake the site, or you're going to defend the site. And if you're playing for retake, that doesn't mean that you can't just look for a pick and then fall back to regroup with your team, but you definitely don't want to be positioning in a spot where you can't even fall back. And try to remember that losing your utility for the retake is a big deal for your team, so you want to make sure that if you're going to die, you're going to be making a big play. Everyone on your team has their job in a retake, so if you can't fulfill your job, you better be sure that you're coming out ahead. Now, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't always play retake. For example, if you have a good defense set up on a site, maybe you have 3 players that they're pushing into, it might actually be a good idea for you guys to stick the site and try to get as many kills as possible as they're pushing in. Sometimes you'll even wipe the whole team. Another situation in which you might actually want to stick the site is if you guys don't have numbers advantage in the round. Maybe somebody got picked off earlier and you need a big play to come up to actually win the round. At this point, it might be a good idea for you to not give up that territory advantage and actually try to fight for it, because you're already behind in numbers, so it's not likely that you're going to win the round anyway. Or alternatively, you could consider saving your gun. That is an option that a lot of people don't know exists. Now, moving on to our next tip, which is appropriately titled, fucking wait. You know you don't need to cancel the bomb plan, right? Like, it's okay for you to wait for your team to get into position. If your jet just dashes onto site before the omen blind comes in, she's just going to die. Like, there's nothing more to it. If you give your Sova 2 more seconds to land his recon and then the omen blind comes in and then you dash in, you could potentially pick up 3 kills. You just gotta wait, bro. Just chill. People love to push aggressively in comp. Wait, hold for that push. Let your Sova get over there. Let your omen get over there. Wait for the blind, wait for the recon, and then go in. What's probably gonna happen is their jet's gonna get over aggressive, try to push into heaven to kill you guys. You get a kill onto the enemy jet, then everybody's in position, you're ready to go, you retake with 30 seconds left on the clock, and all is good. Also, while covering this tip, I want to branch out more into a retake ultimate that a lot of people don't understand how to use. That's going to be Killjoy's ultimate. You do realize when you place Killjoy's ultimate, there's actually 0 effect immediately that takes place, right? Like, you understand that. And I mean, literally 0 has happened between Killjoy placing her ult and that 2 seconds that your jet took to dash onto site and go get herself killed. Panic is going to start to ensue, and your opponents might start to adapt to that. But nothing has happened between the 1 second that your Killjoy put the ulti down and the 2 seconds between you guys engaging. You have to recognize your opponents have 2 options when the Killjoy ult comes down. The first is that they fall back off of site and play for the retake. The second is that they push you. And if they're pushing you as you're pushing in and expecting them not to be there, it's probably not going to work out too well for you. When you place Killjoy ultimate, the enemies don't just randomly disappear. A lot of the times they like to hold on site because people like to push stupidly like you. And because you were stupid, that guy who, if you had just waited 3 more seconds, would have been detained and unable to fight back, just killed 3 of you. In retakes, you guys have to stop being so stupid, give your teammates time to get their utility ready, give the Killjoy ult time to go off, and then go in. And fucking wait. You know what you shouldn't wait for, though? The opportunity to subscribe to our Patreon and get access to the number of VOD reviews we have, as well as have the opportunity to have your VOD reviewed as well. I really don't know how to do this spiel without saying as well twice. It's only $5, and it's also free to cancel within the first month period. So if you don't like what you've gotten out of it, you have literally no risk. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and this is the great way to not only support the channel, but also get access to more content like this. So if that's what you guys are looking for, link in the description down below. Nailed it, nailed it. Good. Moving on to smokes, though. No, not those kind of smokes, Brimstone. These kind of smokes. Smokes are important for retakes, and generally it's a good idea to have at least one smoke ready for retake. We already have a controller video available for you guys, so if you guys are looking to improve your controller game, go check that out. But the basic thing to remember when retaking sites is that you want to smoke off the entrance when you're retaking, and then after you get onto the site, you want to smoke the bomb. You don't want to smoke the entrance, because if you smoke the entrance, the guys playing behind that smoke can just spam through the smoke at the bomb that has been pinged by their teammates. However, if you smoke the bomb, your teammates can hold those players out, so this way they can't just spam through freely because they're going to be in gunfights with your teammates because your teammates are going to be gunfighting. That makes sense. Smoking the entrance becomes especially dangerous when the bomb is planted next to a wall, because when it's planted next to the wall, there's less area around the bomb for you to defuse from. That's basically all I learned in math class, and I'm glad that it can be applied to Valorant as well. If you smoke off the entrance and the bomb is planted against a wall, it's going to be very difficult for you guys to defuse it, so always make sure to smoke the bomb just so you can hold those players out. Smokes on retakes are a pretty basic concept though, so I guess if you only have one smoke, just smoke the area that seems most dangerous when entering the site. Remember, exiting through the first door is oftentimes the hardest part of a retake, so however you can make that as easy as possible is generally where you're going to want to put that smoke. Anyway, with all of that in mind, let's move on to timing. Timing is pretty simple as well. Basically, you're just going to want to time everything together. In reality, the most optimal way for this to happen is the first smoke comes down, then the recon hits immediately after, and then as the recon is hitting, the blinds come out. This way, they won't have time to shoot the recon, so hopefully they'll get pinged by the recon multiple times. The blind will come out, it'll blind players while they're getting pinged by our recon. Smokes are down, so players off the site aren't going to be spraying at you. And yeah, you kind of just put them into a blender. This is basically arranged with the standard Sova Omen comp. Obviously, you're not always going to be running those agents, so if you are running somebody like a Sky or something, you kind of just have to know your job and when to use your utility. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to be using your utility when nobody can capitalize on it. Like if you throw your Omen blind really early and nobody's there to actually push off of it, you didn't really get any value on it. A lot of the times people hear people pushing onto site, and they'll just throw their Omen blind onto a site that nobody is defending at the time. It doesn't do anything. You know that moment when you get Omen blinded and you're like, oh shit, and you go to hide in a corner? You want to push them in that oh shit moment. You know, every time I've been Omen blinded and then I sit in a corner and I don't get pushed, I'm just like, oh, thank God. Don't let me be excited like that. Come and kill me. In a video game though, in a video game. Try to remember, a retake is basically the equivalent of a defense's site take. You don't want to perform an execute by running in 1v1 and just trying your luck. Generally, when you do an execute, you want to have the smokes come down, then the recon, then the flashes, and then you go. Follow that order, get into a rhythm, and it works even better if you guys are able to pick up a kill or two before the round and then fall back. This is part of the reason operators are so strong on defense, is because they're really good at getting those opening picks and opening up the round for you. Now, obviously, this is the ideal situation in which you have recon, smokes, blinds ready, and all 5 of your players are alive. This isn't always going to happen. In a situation in which it's a 3v3, you're going to have to make do with what you have. This may change what utility you want to use where over the course of the retake. It's also important to recognize what advantages each position has in a retake. For example, if you try to retake from heaven, this can be awesome because it has a great positional advantage over the entire site. You can see pretty much everything, and this can be really deadly to have a player up here. However, something to keep in mind when going heaven is that eventually you're going to have to drop out of heaven. And when you drop out of heaven, you're going to be exposed to the entire site and unable to fight back. Because normally in Valorant, you can't shoot people while falling. Yeah, normally. This is part of the reason why if you don't have a lot of numbers, it might be better for you to send most of your team through CT. Because then they won't have to face that problem of jumping out of heaven and exposing themselves to the entire site without being able to fight back. This same situation exists on a lot of different maps, by the way. It exists on Bind, it exists on Ascent, it exists on Haven, it exists on Icebox, it exists on Split. I think another thing to keep in mind is when you drop out of heaven, you also give away information because you're going to make noise when you drop. This is why a lot of the times people shoot when they drop, because it'll mask the sound of them falling with a gunshot, which sounds a little counterproductive, but it does kind of work. I think something that's important to mention is Valorant is a game of angles. So although I'm kind of hating on retakes from heaven, there's actually a good purpose for retaking from heaven. It's going to provide you an advantage that'll stop enemy players from peeking you from dangerous angles when you're retaking from the ground. For example, if somebody goes heaven on bind, it really prevents any players swinging out from triple and countering those players who are coming in from pipes. They can't really do this swing while there's somebody heaven aiming them down. Because they are looking for duels here, it makes it easier for the other players to be able to entry. Similarly, the players who are coming in from pipes clear out that whole angle underneath heaven, making it easier for the heaven players to drop out. This is why it can be really nice to spread out your players and actually retake from different positions. However, if you don't have a lot of players, this isn't always the best idea, because if you only have 3 players and you have them approaching from 3 different angles, you are relying on all 3 of those players to win their duels. Which could work out, but it could also be really risky, and it might be a better idea to have 2 players go through pipes and actually clear out these angles together where they can 2v1 each enemy that they come across. If you spread out your players, this could be an example of spreading your resources too thin, and if you're in like a 3v2 or something, I highly recommend that you actually stick your players together and you retake the site together, because you already have number advantage, so if you can just go for trades, then you're going to come out on top anyway. If you split up your players in a 3v2, it's going to give them the 1v1s that they want and increase the likelihood that they win the round. Overall though, if there's anything I want you to take away from this guide, it's just to pay attention to the positioning of your teammates in relation to yourself, as well as just wait for your teammates to retake. Because too many players just run onto site without any regard for what is going on in the game. And not only is that going to lose you games, but it's going to lose me games because I'm on your team. So I hope this guide was helpful for you. And if it was, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below. It really does help us out. As I mentioned before, if you guys are looking for more VOD review type content to support the channel, that is available in the Patreon down below. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in my next video.